let's hop straight into it. In this video, we talk about Ethereum, Solana, and Bitcoin. I've got a couple of proxy trades in eToro, SBET, and BMNR. In my non-eToro portfolios, I also hold Upexi, Galaxy, and DFDV as some Solana action. Should be good on those ones. We'll talk about any exciting news and stuff, and let's get cracking. I know it's been a while. I'm back. I'm not sick anymore. However, I can tell I had a long time off because I've just recorded a 10-minute video and forgot to use my microphone. So it's going to take me a while to get back in the swing of things. Let's go take a look at the daily chart for Ethereum though. Okay, so I don't need to tell everyone that it's been quite painful. I know it's been painful. I think we've had a precipitous fall in price here. Around 45% drop in maybe a month and a half, something like that. Even though the bears are taking victory laps at the moment, I don't think they were thinking it'd be quite so painful. The problem with moves like this is it's a perfect storm, right? We have a little bit of fear creeping in from the potential 4-year cycle being an end. You know, the time period for that has really passed now. So we're going to get the 4-year bros selling out of Bitcoin. We get the fear from that. And obviously that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Price falls down. People think, oh, the 4-year cycle's still in play. I don't think it is. But the price is going to fall back when they exit, which fair to them. A lot of them have been holding for a very long time. A lot of the long-term holders are selling out, but the buy side of that is quite strong as well. That does reflect in the price of Ethereum. They all tend to come in cycles together, aside from the Tomley pump. The monitors just went off. But the main thing here is fear moves the market downwards much faster than excitement moves it up. So we get the classic saying, we take the elevator down and the stairs up. Now, the last few sharp pullbacks we've had in the broad market, that hasn't been the case. We've also taken the elevator back up, which is quite unusual. And for anyone new in the market, I do want to really hammer home that that is not normal. These V-shaped recoveries, they aren't typically how the market works, especially for large moves. We normally take a lot longer to come out. Will that be the case this time? I don't know. I think with the super fast news cycle we get these days and the speed in which people pump liquidity in the market, it does make things move a lot faster. But I think that massive liquidation event spooked a lot of people as well. The market makers, whilst they're utilising tools that are perfectly legal for them to do so, there are some moving in a little bit of a grey area. I think Binance may be one of the ones that falls into one of those grey areas. They may have done themselves more harm with this liquidation event and offering insane leverage, stuff like that. I think even Robinhood now is offering 50x, which is criminal. I mean, if you had 50x long during this drop, you got absolutely annihilated, and I think some brokers are even providing 200x. That is just, do not do it. If you're going to do it with $1 or something you don't mind losing, but just be very, very careful with that. But looking specifically at the Ethereum chart here, this is a perfect place to bounce. I would love for us to start making higher highs here. We have the point of control, which is very, very strong support. If we lose that, then we are most likely in a bear market, in my opinion, and crypto winter. Now, the benefit of being in crypto winter now would be that I think Bitcoin, the leading kind of crypto OG, is much closer to its bottom price that I would have put. It's normally the election low, which I think is around 74, 75k. So if we are moving into the crypto winter, the downside is limited at this point. Obviously, that typically will be higher percentage-wise for Ethereum and Solana because they act as more of a proxy. But again, this massive volume shelf here, I really don't want to see Ethereum fall under that. If Ethereum falls under that, I'm probably going to trim out my BMNR position because that is a proxy trade. The downside pain on that one is going to be much more extreme. So support under that, really, you're just looking point of control, and then you've got very, very weak support until you get down to 2.2. So that is not a nice area for us to get to. And then below that, again, we have the strongest support at 1.8. That would be probably the confirmation of a bear market, right? But for us to confirm back into a bullish trend, we're working in this channel. We really want to push out of this. this kind of 3-2 level is going to be tough. But if we can pop out and back test that one as support, that puts me in a much more positive view. The indicators RSI is looking absolutely smashed. It's still not looking bullish there. We've not got a bullish divergence or anything like that really forming. So we could go a little bit lower. But again, if we look back traditionally where Ethereum bottoms, if we pull this over, the bottom usually comes when we start getting really spicy on RSI. So we can go a bit lower. But soon, I think if the changing of the macro direction doesn't pull Ethereum along with it, then buckle up, Sonny. If you're just in crypto, you could get wrecked. So again, I don't like to over diversify, but probably don't just be in crypto because this kind of pain happens. Looking at the weekly real quick, I think that's going to look probably just as rubbish. Again, this is a much better representation of we take the elevator down and the stairs will probably come up. We can see it here. Elevator down, stairs up, although there's quite steep stairs. So again, I do want to say that's not traditional, but that happens more often in crypto. This is probably a better example of what we normally see. We take the elevator down and we just, stairs for a long time. Nothing too exciting. One thing I missed on the daily was the MACDX Plus. This I don't like. The absolute drop off of institutional scalings, not great. But the kind of BX trender, whilst it's not great, we do have a higher high here with the light bar that can signal a little bit of buying pressure. So again, it's looking weak kind of in the near midterm, but it has the potential to change, and that's what we're looking out for. And we're going to use that as an indicator whether we trim our proxies or not. So worth keeping an eye on that one. Let's move on. Moving on to Solana then. I mean, it looks pretty identical to Ethereum. We're working with very similar levels here. Let me just put it right in scale. Obviously, we are way below the point of control on this one, so it's looking a bit more structurally bearish. Now, I still think the tech is better. It's a little bit overlooked institutionally, but we're right at the bottom of a volume shelf on this. Same situation, obviously, we're below the POC already, but the volume shelf here is key on this one. If we fall below this volume shelf on Solana, where is the volume support to hold us up? Apologies, my dog just walked in, both of them. But again, we do have the opportunity here to have a good bounce. Let's put this trend line here. On Solana, I have a couple of Solana proxies. If we break low, probably going to close them out. If we break higher, we should be okay for a while. We just have to be more careful around the double top and stuff like that forming. So we really need to keep an eye on liquidity. Now, the crypto side of things is trading more with the ISM and risk on assets, that they have been absolutely butchered lately. So that's something to be aware of. But again, losing this level, 1, 2, 3 would be terrible. And I just think this is massively undervalued. But is the market going to respect that during this cycle? I don't know. But again, I don't have any plans to sell out on this one. The low for Solana to find the next levels of interest, we're going to have to zoom out a little bit and look at the next volume shelf, which forms around 109. That is quite a drop, as you can expect. So doesn't look as strong as the Ethereum chart for the possibility of a bounce. But again, they're going to follow Bitcoin and what Bitcoin does. So let's zoom back in again, look at levels to the upside. We want to break over that red line, make a new higher high, maybe back test, and that would be a really nice head and shoulders pattern as well with a really good measured move target. Let me just ballpark that one. Probably around 200, but that's just a guess. Obviously, you have to wait for the pattern to form. Sorry, my dog wants to come up. So, wish I had more exciting news to tell you about crypto, but that's where we're currently sitting. Bitcoin, I think, is the most bullish of the charts, which is saying a lot. The RSI in this one looks really painful as well, though. Typically, the lower RSI in this one does signal a potential reversal coming, but we need to be a little bit more overcooked on this one, which also is the confluence for a bounce would be more pain via the RSI, but that would put us way past the volume shelf, which would be super bearish. So it's going to be a little bit more nuanced. Again, the MACD Plus is cooked on this one. We do look like we are stagnating a little bit, which is good. And again, the BX trender, the glimmering light on the Solana chart is the BX trender looks much better than it does on Ethereum. If we zoom in, we've had a series of higher highs on this one. Now the risk here is we print some lower lows, but this one looks more likely to pop. We might get a better view for that on the weekly if we take a quick little look. Refresh. No higher high on the weekly, but again, it looks like we could potentially get that. Again, we've taken the elevator down. We're probably going to take the stairs up, probably. So I'm not expecting the top of crypto until Q1, maybe 2026, which is way further out than a lot of people would have had it. But this really depends if this becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Is the desire to have a 4-year cycle pushing us to have a 4-year cycle? Or are people preemptively selling into this pain, thinking that the cycle still exists and it's generating that cycle? The macro environment and the kind of the broader flows and the broader changes in trend and institutional uptake tell us that the 4-year cycle is dead, but people selling as price drives narrative is telling us that the 4-year cycle does exist. So I think we're stuck in that limbo, and that needs to change. Let's take a look at the next one. Looking at the Bitcoin chart again, chart, the just pure down. This is pure pain train. We had this massive wick here. I love where it's bounced on here. We hit that key volume shelf, the last big support on the year to date. Don't want to break that. That again would put me in quite a bearish stance. We are quite a way below the POC on this one, which is not as bullish. However, a bounce here would be lovely. The RSI is looking really oversold. I do like this as a potential low signal. The question now is it going to be a dead cat bounce? We pop up. We'll look at the monthly. That gives us a little bit better perspective on that one. The MACD Plus is showing more signs of recovery than Solana and Ethereum, which I like. But the BX trender is still not great. We do have a higher high, which I like, but I'd like to see some follow through on that one. To the upside, let me just add in the line we want to break over to get back bullish. So to get back on a kind of bullish trend, we really need to break over that red line. So still not looking great. The weekly on Bitcoin, again, that is just pure elevator down, stairs up, right? So be prepared for this. If this isn't the confirmation of the end of the cycle, it's going to be a much longer cycle because it's going to take a while for it to pick back up. But really on this one, we did make a lower low over this low, but we haven't disrupted the longer term trend here. We need to break below this kind of 78. I can't remember specifically the date of the US election, but I think the low is around here. I think this is the base. I would quite confidently say I wouldn't expect Bitcoin to get below this area. So if you want to buy more, you can buy more here. I'm not buying more because I'm fully invested in the current market. I've rotated some things into some other things that I think are looking better in the near term for a sooner recovery. The RSI here has a little bit more room to the downside, so that's something to bear in mind. Whilst we did test this low and bounce back up, we could push back down and test it again. But that is a very nice, strong looking wick. But we have seen a lot of these strong wicks get sold off again. So we had one here and we sold straight back off it the following week. And we had this massive liquidity event one. And we sold right back down, retested that low. So could we see this one push back down here to 76? That would be the bear market end I would think, if we do that. So, like I say, we are much closer to what I would expect to be the bottom of a bear trend for crypto, and maybe we're just seeing people preemptively run that. A lot of the longer term wallets are dumping. Institutions have still been doing pretty well buying them up. Obviously, the ETFs are reflecting what people don't want to hold, so they're selling. But I think this has been a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. They've seen the liquidation event, they've seen the leveraged play become risky. The macro went bad. We had the government shut down. We've had data missing. We've had the possibility of rate cuts go a bit south. We've had the AI bubble shaking a little bit. I don't necessarily think that's a bubble. I just think the money's going to rotate to the businesses that succeed there, as we are seeing with the big cap stocks. But there's worries around the amount of debt they're taking on, even though they put up really good numbers and really good earnings growth. So again, we're just in this little bit of an awkward spot in the market. Liquidity's dried up. We do have the signal for the end of QE in the US. Is that going to be enough to stimulate further? I think they're going to end up doing more QE than anticipated. I still think we're going to get a Santa rally, but again, it's how not all boats are going to float with the money that comes in, because there's been such a pullback. Key things are going to win, but I think a lot of the people that sold out here to generate this precipitous drop will end up buying back in if we do go closer to this 74k. Like I say, I think that's the bottom. I think we'll see quite a good strong bounce if we get to that area. That's a wrap. If you enjoyed this content, feel free to share it with your mum, your nan, your dad, your dog, whoever. And I'll see you next time.